Hey, what's going on? We're going to be talking about renovating today. Now, I know a thing or two about renovations because if you've been following my channel over the last 4 years, you'll see that Emily and I have handled over 5 renovations in the last 5 years. We've renovated investment properties and we've renovated our own home. And in this video, we're going to be going through 10 key tips to renovate for profit or to create equity and wealth. Now, if you're interested in any of these types of videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I talk about real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. And if you're looking to buy a property here in Brisbane in the next 3 to 6 months, head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free chat with myself. So tip number 1 is to target high demand growth locations. Now, at its core, property is a game of supply and demand. If supply exceeds demand, prices will typically go down. If we're in short supply and with high demand, prices will continue to rise. And this is one of the big reasons people are deciding to buy and invest in Southeast Queensland. We're seeing a lack of supply, a lack of oncoming pipeline in terms of developments and new housing stock and land infill. And we're seeing growing demand here in Brisbane with both overseas and interstate migration moving into the greater Brisbane market. So when you're looking to buy a property and add value to it through renovations, make sure you're targeting an area that has growth potential. I like to break this down into 2 key points. You're looking at the price and you're looking at your strategy. Your price is going to determine where you can buy or where you can afford. We don't all have a $2 million budget to buy and renovate a property. You might be buying at $600,000, at $800,000, or at $1 million. So based on your price point, that's when you need to narrow down to the right areas for your given price. The way we do this in-house is we look at incomes, we look at demographic data, we look at oncoming supply and gentrification, as well as future projects that are happening in terms of transport and infrastructure. So do your research and target those high demand growth areas as part of your renovation strategy so the market can do some heavy lifting in terms of the capital growth on the property. Tip number 2 when it comes to renovating is prioritize kitchens and avoid bathrooms if you're looking to make a quick buck. What we found through experience by doing the Baby Queenslander in Everton Park, renovating our own home, tackling a project in Bray Park at the moment with our Bray Park bomb renovation, which will be out on YouTube early in 2025. What we've experienced is if you can prioritize spending money on the kitchens and try and buy homes that have reasonable bathrooms, which you can just cosmetically upgrade, this gives you the biggest bang for buck in terms of value on your renovations. I've found that bathrooms tend to be the most expensive areas in terms of trades. You need to generally reframe, resheet, waterproof, then tile, then fit out, and also have your electrical and plumbing potentially changed and upgraded. That's why for me, the bathrooms are the most complex areas and the most expensive when renovating. Now, it might be different in your own experience, but in my opinion, if you can spend more of your money on your kitchen for a wow factor with some stone bench tops or some nice cabinetry, we tend to go for kitchens with bullnose handles, so you don't need to attach separate handles to the kitchens, and it makes the kitchen a lot cleaner and tidier, and you're getting that big value uplift for the kitchen, and it's not as difficult in terms of managing the trades. Tip number 3 is not to forget about your curbside appeal. A lot of people want to spend money on the inside of the home, so flooring, kitchen, painting, bedrooms, fans, electrical upgrades, plumbing, and so on, which is all great, but you should really focus on the cosmetics. When you're wanting to add value, creating a fantastic curbside appeal where people get a bit of wow factor can really draw them into a property. So make sure if you've got shrubs covering the front of your house that you cut them back. Make sure you do a bit of mulching, gurney the driveways. Spend a little bit of money on the curbside appeal because the first impressions matter when people are looking to buy a home, or if a valuer is coming out to your property and they see the front has been tidied up, they're going to think that the inside is going to be nice as well. So that can change their perception of the property. Tip number 4 is add value. And the way we do that is through cosmetic upgrades and amenity upgrades. This is exactly where I tell my clients to spend their hard-earned cash when they're renovating. And this is what Emily and I have done in our own journey. When we've gone and done renovations, we've generally steered away from major structural renovations. Reason being is you get get your biggest dollar for dollar return when you're doing cosmetic and amenity upgrades. So cosmetics are things like flooring. So do hybrid or laminate flooring, or carpet in the bedrooms if you want to save a little bit of money. On the walls, we like to do painting, so just paint them white in our opinion. And then if you're looking to upgrade some lights, do some LEDs and maybe throw in a nice feature fan there for a bit of a point of difference to draw people's eye and attention to that in the home. When you're looking to add amenity, make sure you're adding dishwashers, you're adding air cons, you're adding bifold doors which open up the space if it's worth the money. Those things which are going to change the way you use the space, air cons, dishwashers, opening the space up onto decks, things like that. Those are going to change the look and feel and function of the home. They're going to add value in my opinion. So that's why we focus on cosmetics and amenity when we're looking to do these renovations. Tip number 5 is consider long-term value add strategies on the property as well. Now, yes, this video is called Tips for Renovating for Profit, but I also think you shouldn't be taking a short-term perspective. And so you should also consider, once you've done your initial cosmetic renovation, if you hold this property for the long term, what else can you do to the home to create value down the track? You might have what I call a stacker strategy. You might buy the property, you might renovate it initially or within 1 year or 2 years and add a little bit of value. You might spend $50,000 and get a $50,000 uplift in addition to that as part of that renovation strategy. In 5 years' time, that property might be primed to do an extension because it's in a upper class area, and turning it from a 2-bedroom to a 4-bedroom home could be a great strategy to add value to the property and spend maybe $200,000 and get another $200,000 of equity. This was the plan for the Baby Queenslander that we purchased in Everton Park. And if you want to go back, you can watch the whole renovation series from about 4 years ago when Emily and I first started renovating and documenting it on the YouTube channel. As part of that renovation, we planned to do that cosmetic reno and then potentially do an extension to that property down the track. It was well set up. It was a 607 square meter block where we could extend and do what's called a box off the back, which is just a flat roof line where you can add a kitchen and a bathroom and maybe a main bedroom, and then use the front space of the home for bedrooms and bathrooms. So it creates open plan living at the back and then uses the original part of the home for all those, nooks and crannies and bedrooms and study spaces. So look at those types of strategies. I've also talked a lot about granny flats as well, or subdivision potential. So if you can have those longer term value add strategies in that property purchase, that's a great way to create not just short term but long term value add in your property journey. Tip number 6 is maximize the space based on your cost. Now, generally, like I said earlier, you want to stick to cosmetic and amenity upgrades, but there are circumstances where it does make sense to do structural changes. So working with a carpenter and an engineer and the right trades in place, you can get LVLs put in spaces to open your kitchen up. So open your kitchen, dining and living space to make the area much larger. And that's exactly what we've done. We've worked with companies here in Brisbane to help clients do this exact strategy in blue chip locations. We've actually gone through a renovation recently with a client where we opened up not just one wall, but 2 walls to make the living area a lot larger and really connect the kitchen, dining and living space. Now, in that example, it cost the client around $16,000 to $18,000 to open up those 2 walls, but money well spent in my opinion, because it really changes the space and brings it into the 2020s in terms of lifestyle and function. Tip number 7 is to focus on quality products over quantity of work. If you can work with the spaces that you've got and focus on adding quality into those areas, that doesn't mean it needs to be expensive. So you can shop around and look for discount, vanities at Bunnings if they're on sale. Or you can shop around and find someone who's bought way too many tiles on Facebook Marketplace. You can do the shopping around, but buy quality products because that's going to add perceived value to your property. This actually leads me into tip number 8, which is hire professionals when required. If you want quality in the property, it's okay to do some DIY. I'm a massive advocate for DIY renovations. Have a go at tackling the paint job using a paint sprayer, in my opinion. That's a great way to save thousands of dollars and not put yourself through too much labor. Maybe have a go at laying the vinyl planks if you want to save money on the labor there. Now, there are things where I would definitely pay the professionals after doing 6 renovations over the last 6 years. In particular, particular, I'd be paying obviously your plumber and your electrician. You have to pay those trades, in my opinion, because that's where you're required to have licenses. But also the cabinet maker for the kitchen. I would not be making the cabinetry. Emily and I, for example, also made a wardrobe in our Everton Park property in that Baby Queenslander. We spent about 5 or 6 hours of our hard-earned time trying to build this giant wardrobe with mirrors. Now, in reality, we should have just paid someone the money to build that and save ourselves the stress and the hassle. So work out where it does make sense to do it yourself and where it makes sense to hire out to the trades. And this leads me into point number 9, which is managing your budget. You're going to be led by whether you do it all DIY or all trades or somewhere in the middle, depending on your budget. Now, there is a massive price difference between 2020 prices and 2024 prices when it comes to renovating. So you need to have a contingency in place. And in my opinion, you should have at least 20% over what you actually think you're going to spend in reality, because budgets just blow out. Now, I'm going to be sharing the renovation series of our own home here, and we had budgeted, if you've seen the old videos, around $400,000 to $450,000 for our renovations. Now, I won't reveal to you today where our budget is at, but as part of the renovation series, as we wrap it up, we'll go through the detailed numbers of our raise and build project where we've lifted our house, built in underneath, turned it into a 5-bed, 3-bath, 2-car home with a carport, a swimming pool, a home gym, and so on. And so we've significantly increased our scope from the original $400,000 budget. So just be wary if you are changing your scope as you go along. I've had clients do this as well in the past. Oh, actually, can you open up that extra wall for me that we hadn't budgeted? Or can we, while we're also tiling the kitchen, can we also tile the bathroom? And so those extra jobs that you add in are going to add significant cost. So make sure you price everything out. Get 2 to 3 quotes from your trades when you are outsourcing the work, and obviously take on the DIY when it makes sense to save yourself the money. My biggest DIY things that I like to do are landscaping, painting, maybe some flooring, and some general handyman jobs. The jobs that are really hard to find trades to do, they're the jobs you should generally pick up. This leads me into tip number 10, which is what I've found is renovating for equity rather than renovating for profit has been the biggest way for Emily and I to create wealth and to create cash flow and long-term wealth creation in our journey. We did a flip project in 2023 and we made a very small profit. It was about 2.5 days a week for 3 to 4 months of work, and we only made about $15,000 on that renovation, which is nothing to turn your nose up at, but the result of that was that we'd made hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity by buying, renovating, and holding properties, because we manufactured value through the renovations to fast track our journey and to create equity quickly, and also let the market do the heavy lifting. So that's where I see the real value in property investing, is manufacture the value through these renovations and then let the market also do some heavy lifting for you through capital growth. And this is where, if you have the serviceability, you can refinance the equity, pull more debt out against those properties, and use those funds for future renovations on other projects, or use those funds as a deposit to continue growing your asset base. Now, if you're stuck because we're in a higher interest rate environment and you want to find out how you can borrow more money, make sure you click this video over here, which will run you through that in detail. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.